This video is brought to you by viewers like you. First off, we'll talk about the feet. We barely know anything about Pawniard and Raicc mouths other than their chins are thin and their jaws are wide and weirdly shaped. This typically suggests that they eat harder foods like nuts and grasses, or maybe chewing through a dense animal. But jaws and human bones likely evolved to be able to take a punch. It may be the same case here, as these Pokemon are diligent fighters. The crests atop their head are mainly used as a weapon, but it also functions as a determinant of leadership. Bisharps with damaged crests will actually step down from leadership, and they carry the crests of defeated Bisharps. Its use as a weapon comes with another evolutionary construction on their head, the helmets. These helmets act almost like the bell guard on an epee, protecting the Pawniard or Bisharp during a head-on attack. I'll return to this point in the behavior section. The head case in general is large, like in humans, meaning the battle strategies for which they're known come from a probably large brain. It may have also evolved similarly to humans, giving their body more muscle connection points for thrusts and attacks with their crests. In fact, just like in real life, bite force may have even been the driving factor for their crests. Real-life bite force was initially amplified with the sagittal crest, still present in many mammals, but most exaggerated in opossums. Maybe Pawniards were developing bite force, developed this structure, and began using it as a weapon. The brain case then expanded to keep bite force higher, and that resulted in notable intelligence. This is all in line with how intelligence evolved in real life. The eyes are largely uninteresting, but the visor of their helmet does help shade their eyes if they're fighting into the sun. Now I'm kinda sad that there's no gender difference with the mustache on King Gambit, or the evolution as a whole, Queen Gambit or something, but it doesn't particularly surprise me. Most gender differences are minuscule and from Generation 4. Game Freak cares so little about them that one of their recent games forgot to give Shinx's shiny female version the proper shiny form. I tried to find this online, but I couldn't. Let me know if you have luck. Now onto the body. Pawniard and Bisharp keep a wide stance, but Pawniard has wide feet, letting it stay balanced and steady in a fight. Pawniard's round belly also puts weight in its center, providing even more balance. Bisharp loses this in favor of shoulder pads and exaggerated abdominal blades. Regarding them being steel-type, their bodies seem to be relatively pliable, or at least Bisharp's feet are, leading me to wonder if steel typing is more of a thin coating on skin rather than full steel armor, with some exceptions of course, like my previous videos. Regarding the belly blades, Pawniard and Bisharps have these developed blades on their bellies that they use in last resort attacks on foes. This does track with real-life animal behavior where more desperate animals fight more ferociously, but I can't think of anything where an animal specifically clings to foes in hopes that another of their own takes them down. I understand ants will rush themselves at enemies recklessly, but this specific action is, as far as I know, only similar to bees buzzing on enemy intruders to cook them at risk of their own life. On to the arm blades. Pawniard's arms have the long, double-sided blades at the ends. These help keep distance from predators while attacking, thus keeping them safe. However, they lack fingers, meaning fine manipulation is basically impossible. Good news for them is that Bisharp's arms develop interestingly to have a thumb and a gauntlet-like structure, while concealing the blades within these gauntlets. The development of a thumb is likely more for better commanding with Pawniards, as somehow Pawniards get by sharpening their blades and eating without these fingers. Also, King Gambit loses the thumb for some reason. Pawniards have wide feet to complement their wide stances. Their toenails are currently seemingly adapted to help keep balance, acting as little kickstands or perhaps just adding surface area to the feet. But it moves from plantigrade to digitigrade upon evolving into Bisharp, meaning it's standing on its toes rather than its full feet. This means Bisharp is capable of running faster, especially paired with the now larger thigh muscles, but it does mean it can't stand as steadily in a fight. It also seems as if its toenails have sharpened. Now the blades in general are very curious to me. Pawniard's blades chipping can apparently be lethal for it. My guess is that their blades are connected to their bloodstream, almost like a cat's claw. Getting them chipped opens them up to infection, while being relatively difficult to patch up and repair, as it's more like a broken nail than wounded flesh. This also makes sense why they sharpen their nails, as cats will do the same thing by scratching onto wood. The whole line has a big behavioral focus on warfare. Obviously their bodies are built for it, but these Pokemon even follow rigid military structures. This is something we don't see in real life aside from humans, but ants and chimps do come close to this behavior. Bisharp will retire if their crest is chipped. Similarly, the item Leader's Crest looks like a chipped Bisharp crest. Do they take the trophies of leaders they've defeated? Knowing what we know about chimps and humans, the desecration of corpses isn't unknown behavior in the animal world. Some spiders will even take remains of prey to use in their nest, so it makes sense to me that a Bisharp would take this as a proof of winning. In line with warfare, we have their fighting stances. I'm honestly surprised that these videos have overlapped with a third interest of mine, that being melee combat. We see Pawniard and Bisharp, when running, take this anime-style running stance, Naruto running. I'd get into the history of that, but all you need to know is that it's not faster than a real run. However, it's not entirely unreasonable for these Pokemon to do it to some effectiveness as, like I said earlier, their heads are essentially shields and swords. Leading with their head would be pretty effective, like a lance. In the anime, we do actually see one use practical running to close distance, the Naruto run, when he's attacking with Iron Head. The point of that is, we see a big discrepancy between untrained and trained Pawniard and Bisharp fighting stances in the anime. When a ninja village is attacked by other ninjas, the Pawniards and Bisharps keep their arm to their sides often, leaving them open. However, the times we see a professionally trained Pawniard or Bisharp, they tend to keep their arms in front of them for defense. It makes sense that a crew of guerrilla fighters would know less about proper combat than a professional combatant, but it's still a nice attention to detail. Still in line with warfare, but less so, is territoriality. Bisharp and Fracture both seek sharpening stones for their biological blades, so territorial battles often erupt between the two. Additionally, as commanders of platoons, I'd imagine they'd have ranges of control respected by other groups of Bisharps, similar to wolves. Why they might go to war is that one of their resources is low and they need to capitalize on a resource-rich area, and so they would attack with their forces, leading of course to one Bisharp having their crest chipped and defeated, the Pawniards assimilated, and the Bisharp getting stronger. These Pokemon are further similar to wolves additionally, in that wolves will actually choose leaders based on experience, and they'll aim to overwhelm and wear down prey together rather than hunting alone. Bisharp of course all do this. Pawniards, when desperate, will hug enemies with their belly blades to wear them down for Bisharps to land a finishing blow. Additionally, of course, Bisharp lead Pawniard because Bisharp are more experienced. However, wolf leaders don't step down when injured, unlike Bisharp. As I'd stated before, these Pokemon sharpen their blades using whetstones they find in the wilderness. In real life, this is typically something like quartz, but many different types could be used, including generic river stones. Seeing as water is usually used to lubricate sharpening stones, as well as them likely needing to drink, I'd imagine their territories have a pretty high priority to include a plentiful amount of rivers. And finally, their diet. In terms of what they predate, there are overall few possibilities, but one big focus is Fracture. I'd imagine they don't want to waste the food after fighting with them. Some possible foods based on proximity might be the plethora of Ghost and Psychic type Pokemon found often around Pawniard. As little as I consider type matchups for predation purposes, it is worthwhile to note. There are also a notable amount of poison type Pokemon around, with Scoropy and Krogunk lines being most frequent. Krogunk's incredible musculature and Scoropy being arthropod based means they likely have a good amount of protein in them. Considering how often Pawniards fight, I'd say they need the energy. In terms of what predates them, we have two known conflicts. Of course, Tinkatuff will attack Pawniard and Bisharp from metal, as well as the rest of that line, and Fracture probably does win some of the fights against them, and now has a feast of his own. Possible predators based on proximity will be Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn shows up surprisingly frequently, and Dreadnought, who is very frequently found around them, and its jaw can bite through steel. What likely happens here is that Pawniard and Bisharp, looking for river stones, end up meeting an untimely fate at the hands of one of these guys, chomping through them. I'd ended off with human interactions like I normally do, but I pretty much talked about that in the behavior section since it was so heavily tied in. Thank you all for watching. Shout out to my patrons, Dealer888, and an especially big shout out to Soupcan and Arthur Amigo. You guys help fund this and help me pay my editor. I've been pretty tight on money, but fortunately I'm not anymore. Thank you so much, and I hope you like the next video. Don't forget to vote in the community poll on my channel. Bye bye.